Well, this may seem like a little bit strange subject for out on the front porch, but let me tell you, I imagine that my parents, I don't know for sure, but I imagine that my parents were pretty much like Americans today. They knew they had a constitution and that it protected them, but I think they pretty much took it for granted. You know, it wasn't really a thing in their daily lives. But let me tell you what, the Europeans that came and sat on our porch and talked on hot summer evenings, unless there was a thunderstorm going on, they didn't take it for granted. Let me tell you, they studied it, they understood it, and they proclaimed it as the savior of the world, not just the United States. I remember one Polish guy saying that he would carry the Constitution with him anywhere in the world he went if he had to go into war this coming World War II, and so that he could remind the world that he was a free man. Well, I'm a product of that. Probably I got more of my belief in the Constitution from the people who came into the country and studied the Constitution to become citizens than it did my parents. And I'm kind of fanatical about it, I know, and maybe people on Facebook get tired of hearing me talk about it, but to me it's the most important document ever written, alongside the 10 Commandments. So whether you believe in God or not, as far as I'm concerned, the 10 Commandments offer all the things we shouldn't do and all the things we should do, and the Constitution supplies all our rights to do it. Okay, let's move on from here. I got up this morning about 8 o'clock, stumbled my way out into the living room, sat down in my rocking chair. My wife was playing games on her iPad, and my daughter was reading a book. Well, their privacy and doing what they were doing was over, because I like to talk when I get up. So I talked to Tina and kept interrupting her until finally she put her book down. And we sat talking. I don't know how the subject come around to immigration. Well, I was talking about illegal immigrants. They're not illegal immigrants, they're migrants. Immigrants come through the legal system. Immigrants don't just walk across the border, they're migrants. Okay, sounds good to me. Tina, as a kid, was always for the underdog. You know, if you said something about the underdog, you were in for an argument, and that's the way she always was. Tina put herself through college, got herself a master's degree, and she did it all herself. So she made out of good stuff. But you know what? So many people lose their common sense as soon as they get a little education. Well, Tina is highly educated, and she has kept her common sense and her understanding of what makes people tick. And so she's very interesting to talk to about this kind of thing. So Tina and I was talking about the problems that are going on in Europe, and how the migrants coming from the Middle East and all over are settling into Europe. And the Europeans are unhappy about it. The French have riots going on in the streets where the French are upset and sick and tired of people coming in on top of them and taking over. People who are used to violence and have lived with violence all their lives and know nothing any different. So they're a violent people. Germany suffers with it. France suffers with it. It's all over Europe. And we're having the same problem. We have people coming across the border who have been have lived and were raised in countries where there is no law, basically. Some of those countries, Honduras and some of them, have been overrun by criminality. And the reason is the government doesn't govern. Governments without strong constitutions can do anything they want to. So they sit in their palace. Few guards outside guarding them. They don't care what's going on in the country because they're living a good life and things are fine with them. They don't have to pay the police department. So the gangsters and the mobsters pay the police department. Well, you know, the gangsters do everything they can to keep those guys in power. After all, they're making it safe for them to operate out of that country. They don't prosecute the gangsters. So they say, you support me and I'll protect you. So the country is basically run by gangsters. And that's what socialism does, because socialism has no strong, powerful constitution that can't be just that can't take strong, powerful constitution. The people's rights can just be taken away. We have a constitution that comes down from probably 6,000 years ago, when the Jews recognized a God, and mankind was thought to have rights, whether it was from God or whether it was just the rights of man. And they come down for thousands of years, and finally, here in the United States, it came about that men are free. And they're inalienable rights that cannot be taken away by government or anybody else, because government didn't give them. So if you think your Constitution came from the founders of the country, you're wrong. All they did was recognize those rights. So anyway, I'm sorry I took over here with this, because I wanted to tell more about what Tina thinks, but I can't keep my mouth shut. This is a good start on this subject, and I'll probably try to add to it and pick up on it. Okay, in a few days I'll put together a little more video on this. Got a little bit more to talk about, but I don't want to make this too long. Then I'll move on to designing the wolf trap at Mars Machine Works and so on. Where